Allegiance, please give allegiance to the pledge.
Ready, begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag one nation, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, if we could have the roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Division 7, Gary Van Dam.
Here.
Division 6, Audrey Miller. Here. Division 5, Robert Harris is not present this evening. Division 2, Keith Dias.
Here.
Division 1, Shelley Sourceable.
Here.
Division 3, Frank Donato. Division 4, George Lane.
Here.
General Manager Knutson.
Here.
Attorney Markman.
Here.
And Holly Hughes present.
Yeah. The next item is generally a public roll call for anybody that's listening in. If you would like to just announce your name and what you represent, it's not mandatory, but if now's the time to do so.
John Ukestead, AV Mutual Group. Vincent Dino, Palmdale Water District.
Hi, George.
White Fence Farms, Jack Cephas.
Hi, George, and members of the board. This is John Joyce reporting for the Acton Aguadulce News.
Hey, John.
Hi.
Just a reminder, we're coming back to normal or public meetings, so everybody's welcome to at the boardroom. And anyway, we'll be doing that. We're under new guidelines starting in March. So anyway, we hope to see as many people as possible. And next item is public comments. Item number 5. If anybody would like to address the board now, they're welcome to do so. If not, they can do it at a later time if we have a specific item. Okay, hearing no comments at this time. We'll move to item number 6. We need a motion adoption of agenda, regular board meeting of February 29th.
I'll make a motion. We adopt the agenda. This is Keith.
A motion by Keith and a second by
Director Miller, second.
Director Miller. Okay, thank you, Audrey. Keith, is there any discussion? If not, all in favor? We have to roll call, Madam Secretary.
Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Harris is not here. Keith Dias.
Yes.
Shelley Sourceable.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Okay, thank you. That'll move us on to item number 7. New business items. And there's none, so we're going to pass that. Go to item. Regarding check register, so the motion would be in order.
I'll make a motion. We approve the consent calendar. This is Keith.
Okay, Keith.
This is Director Donato.
If there's no further discussion on that, we'll have a roll call vote. Madam Secretary.
Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes.
Shelley Sourceable.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to item Finance Committee 9A1 regarding the accept and file the Treasurer's report for the month ending January 31st. And I believe we have a short presentation. Teresa, go for it.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, directors. This is the Treasurer's Report for January. It begins on page 21 in your packet. And just to note a couple of items, average yield to maturity for the total portfolio for January is 2.489%, which was up 0.136% from the prior month. Average days to maturity for the total portfolio was 244 days, or approximately 8 months. And total cash and investments at January 31st was $163.5 million. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you much. Is there any questions or comments from the board or the committee?
I have a question. Teresa,
Yes.
on page 2 of 13, look at the graph you got here.
Yes.
Circular one where it says Wells Fargo investments, $87 million.
Yes.
Is that basically our investments, overall investments?
Yeah, so what that is made up of, if we turn to page 4 is a summary of the Avek managed portion. There we go. And so you'll see under Wells Fargo on the top left, it lists money market, government agencies, negotiable CDs, and corporate notes. So those items, their market value, the 5.8, the 41.7, the 5.8, and the 33.6, those make up that $87 million.
And one, thank you for pointing that out. Looking at the returns we're getting, yields, and I have a feeling that our interest rate on our adjustable on the bonds are probably twice as much as what we're seeing here.
Yeah, I mean, because we noticed that resets weekly,
Okay.
right? So yeah,
I know we're gonna be talking about it.
right.
And I want to be forward to hear that.
Yeah.
So when we get this presentation about what we're going to do with those bonds, this is a perfect example right here.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Probably, as these investments mature, we're probably going to see a little rise in the interest rate, I expect.
Well, if you look at the detail of the portfolio, so as things mature, we're able to reinvest at the higher rate right now. We still have investments that are at a lower rate until they mature. Then they'll be reinvested at the current rate, which is significantly higher than, a year and a half, 2 years ago. If you want to see something specific, let's look at, again, we'll look at the Avek managed portion. If we turn to page 5, there you go. So if we just look at the government agencies, you'll see that the last item listed was purchased $421 for a federal home loan bank bond. The maturity is 2/17/23. The yield to maturity when that was purchased was 0.116. If you look at the first one on the list, it was purchased November 18th of 2022. That was a federal farm credit bond. That yield to maturity is 4.4%. So over 4.3% higher.
Just,
Yeah.
one more question, Teresa. The short term, like a year or less, or we're doing like someone we went out in a little longer. Are we seeing the rate it's worth that risk for the longer term?
Not right now. So Richard Babby gave his presentation at the last meeting, and he was talking about the inverted yield curve, where shorter term rates are higher than the longer term rates right now. So I think the 2-year range is probably pretty good for us right now.
All the financial advisors, all of them want us to go out 5 years.
Yeah.
Since I've been on this board.
Yeah.
And we all come back
Yeah.
to 2 and 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any other comments from the directors? Good report, Teresa.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
The motion would be in order to accept the Finance Committee's Treasurer's Report, Board Order 9A1.
This is Director Nato. I'll move on 9A1. So we accept Treasury Report ending January 31st, 2023.
We have a motion by Director Donato, a second.
Second, Gary Van Dam.
Second by Director Van Dam. There's no further discussion. Madam Secretary?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Yeah. Motion carried. Yeah, thank you much. Move item 9B1, High Desert Water Bank. It's consideration and possible action for pilot water banking agreement between AVAC and Santa Clara Valley Water Agency. And that report will be by Director Donato and our manager, Matt.
Okay. Last week, the High Desert Water Bank met with staff, and there was a proposal which is in your agenda as a pilot program for Santa Clara, similar to what we've done with Met. And I'm going to have Matt give you further details on this program.
All right. Thank you, Director Donato. Good evening, board. So on page 36 of your board packet is the agreement that we're going to be considering tonight. And as Director Donato mentioned, this is titled a Pilot Water Banking Storage Agreement between AVAC and Santa Clara Water District, also known as Valley Water. They're located up in Santa Clara, and as you know, they are a fellow state water contractor. I think their table A amount is 100,000 acre feet. So they're incomparable size, a little less than AVAC. So I've got a brief presentation here.
Matt, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah.
Didn't we, for the board, and of course the people that are on Zoom, didn't we have a pilot program we do with them with a water exchange program? Back when
Dan was
back
here.
when Dan was involved?
Yeah, that was Central Coast Water Authority.
Not the same area?
Not same agency. Yeah, different agency. So that exchange was with Central Coast
Okay.
Water Authority.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I thought it was. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
All right. So a little bit of background, and Director Donato mentioned this first bullet, but back in 2016, AVAC had a similar agreement with Metropolitan Water District, where in 2016, that agreement allowed Metropolitan to bank up to 30,000 acre feet of their state water project supplies locally here in the Valley within AVAC's West Side Water Bank. So that was done in 2016, 2017. Metropolitan scheduled and paid for delivery of that 30,000 acre feet to AVAC, and that's water sitting in West Side Water Bank. As you know, that because that 2016 agreement with Met was successful, it kind of helped pave the way for developing the High Desert Water Bank program that we're working on with Metropolitan. So that High Desert Water Bank program agreement was entered into between AVAC and Met in late 2019. So Valley Water District up in Santa Clara, they're very interested in banking with AVAC on the long term and have expressed interest in participating in the next phase of the High Desert Water Bank program with AVAC. So they want to pursue kind of a similar path that Metropolitan did, is enter into this pilot one-time banking agreement with AVAC just so they can, prove out the concept of delivering their state water project water here to AVAC, and there's a return mechanism for AVAC to get that water back to Valley Water. So that's kind of the basis for entering into this agreement with Valley Water. Next slide has the key terms of this agreement. It's up to 15,000 acre feet, one-time storage volume. There would be a 10% loss, similar to all other banking agreements. So if they delivered 15,000 acre feet here within our Westside Water Bank, they would have access to 90% of that upon the return, which equates to about 13,500 acre feet. The term of this agreement is good through the end of calendar year 2027. And the key financial terms are Valley Water District would pay all DWR transportation costs to deliver their 15,000 acre feet to AVAC's turnout for banking within the Westside Water Bank. Currently, that variable rate for DWR to move that water here is about $240 per acre foot. So that equates to $3.6 million in avoided cost to AVAC, because that Valley Water would pay that expense and that water would be banked here locally. They would also take the hit on the one-time 10% loss. So when Valley Water District wants their water back, that 90% of the 15,000, they would pay AVAC an additional $300 per acre foot when we return the water to Valley. So that in itself is about $4.5 million based on returning 13,500 acre feet to Valley. On the return water, Valley would also pay all DWR transportation costs for the return water. Most likely would be returned within San Luis Reservoir. So the total financial benefit to AVAC for this agreement is about $8.1 million if they were to exercise the full 15,000 acre feet under this agreement. Attorney Markman reviewed this agreement, went through it a couple different times. We've also reviewed this with Valley Water District, and they're comfortable with the terms outlined here. So tonight we are recommending, both the High Desert Water Bank and Water Bank Resources Committee and staff recommend that the board approve the pilot banking agreement with Valley Water District and authorize the GM to execute said agreement and implement the program with Santa Clara Valley Water District. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there any questions or comments from the board?
I've read this thing, and it's pretty much a duplicate of what we did with Met. And the only question I have is ask our attorney Jim Markham what he felt about the agreement.
Happy to answer, Frank. Just another opportunity for AVEC to make available to the other state water contractors the ability to take water when it's available over and above their immediate needs and bank it somewhere under very typical terms and conditions. All of this allows flexibility to all of the state water contractors who have access to these banking facilities. So it's in line with AVEC's policy that's been developed the last 3 or 4 years since I've been here. And the terms are standard, pretty standard, and it's very similar to Metropolitan's terms. So we can recommend it, Frank.
Thank you, Jim.
It appears that this is a very good negotiation for both AVAC and Santa Clara.
Yeah.
And I think compliment the Water Bank Committee and the staff for doing such a good job, and looks like it's going to be very beneficial to everybody involved.
I'll direct my question to Matt and perhaps Mr. Markman. What's the downside of this, if any?
So unless Jim wants to jump in here, I really don't see any downside because, as mentioned, Valley Water would be delivering their table A in a wet year, like this, hopefully this year turns out to be. They would pay the cost to deliver that here to AVAC. That water is going to be here locally. When we return water, we're going to take ownership of that bank water here locally and provide our table A to Valley Water District. So financially, it's good. You know, we're going to guarantee the water's here before we provide the exchange. So I don't see much risk at all, unless Jim or
No, well, Shelley, I don't feel there's a risk either, because you have the facility, and it needs to be put to use to benefit AVEC, and you're not paying anything. You're receiving their water to start the whole process, and then when you return the water to them, they pay for the transportation to your turnout, and then when you return it to them, they pay $300 plus any transportation, unless it's on a straight exchange, or they take it upstream and you keep their bank water as AVEC water on an exchange. So AVEC in this case never gets into a position of being behind in the sense of a cash basis.
Well, thank you both for those answers. I just wanted to touch on that a bit so that we can all make an informed decision, both of the good and the potential pitfalls, which I couldn't find any myself. And I think this is a really good business decision. And I personally met with this group of people in the past, the Santa Clara Valley Water District, and they were very, very interested, and they've done their due diligence. And so they really, at that time, stressed their commitment to wanting to put something together with us. So I think this is a great program. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. If there's no further discussion, the motion would be in order.
Okay, this is Director Nato. I'll go ahead and move on board order 9B1 to consider the pilot program banking agreement between AVEC and Santa Clara Valley Water District.
Okay, thank you.
This is Director Sourceable. I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we have a motion and second. Madam Secretary, if we go roll call.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller. Yes. Keith Dias,
Yes.
Shelley Sourceable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried.
Okay, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Director. We bring us down to the new business of 9C1. Consideration of possible action, a letter of support for the Palmdale Water Agency, looking for a grant application. And Matt, you want to touch on that?
Yes, I can. Thank you. And maybe before I move on, I just want to thank Dwayne Chisholm for his input and review of the pilot agreement with Valley Water. It was very helpful. So on this item, on page 52 of your agenda packet, is a staff report. On following page 53, is the proposed letter of support that Palmdale Water District is requesting from AVEC. So this was a last minute thing. We didn't get time to run this through a committee, but I did talk to President Lane, and we added it to this agenda to meet their deadline. So just to highlight why Palmdale is requesting this, they are seeking $1 million in federal grant funding from the Bureau of Reclamation, what's called the Water Smart Water Recycling and Desal Grant Program, for their proposed Pure Water Antelope Valley project. The project is a regional recycled water program that augments potable water supplies using about 5,300 acre feet per year of recycled water from the Palmdale Water Reclamation Plant. PWD has requested a support letter from AVEC to include with their grant application that they're planning to submit in the next couple of days. As you know, Palmdale and AVEC, we have interties that enable the two agencies to provide water supplies to each other. And we've provided mutual support for local projects in the past, both from AVEC to Palmdale and Palmdale back to AVEC. So attached here is the support letter that we're recommending approval of. It's pretty basic, but be happy to answer any questions you may have. And we're proposing this letter be signed by President Lane.
I have a question.
Yes.
We're not putting any money in this. This basically, a formal support that you'd like to see them go forward with this program.
Yeah.
Okay. The second question I have is, I never understood this, and I've heard they spent, not them, but the sanitation district has two facilities, one in Lancaster, one in Palmdale.
Correct.
Spent, I don't know, tens of millions of dollars, and I don't know why it's taken this long to have this facility interacting with our drinking water, because Orange County, complete county, has been approved with tertiary water blending with their whether it's table A water or drinking water.
Yeah.
So that's where we're pushing.
That's where Palmdale Water District is going with this supply. They want to use the effluent from the Palmdale Water Reclamation Plant, treat that to a higher level, and blend it with their potable supplies.
Okay, I think it's a great idea. I mean, that part of it is easy, but I'm just thinking how we can get further involved with and get D40 involved, so we can get these facilities to blend in with AVAC's water.
Yeah.
I just want to throw that out for the record.
Yeah. Okay.
Good comment.
This is Director Sersable. In the past, I believe that AVAC's been against doing such things with the tertiary water, but that's a different subject of us wanting to do that. But secondly, is this the same grant money that we went after for the SNP phase 2?
No, we did not go after the water smart recycling. This is a specific towards water recycling, which is wastewater, and desal programs. So it is a separate program.
Okay, because it was through the Bureau of Reclamation that we had gone with them and talked to them about doing this when we were in when we were up at the Capitol. So,
correct.
Thank you very much for answering my questions.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other comments from the directors?
Yeah, I had one. How many acre feet do they have total, Matt? That 5,200 acre feet's not all their recycled water, is it?
No, I'm kind of going back in my memory, but previous conversations or presentations I've seen from the sanitation district, I think their total annual effluent is closer to 10 or 11,000 acre feet per year.
Right. And then don't they have some going to Yellen Park and Musari and all those?
Yeah, they have a connection right now to McAdam Park. So that park on 30th Street East, they get some direct use.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Apollo Park.
In Apollo Park. That comes from the Lancaster plant.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's try to support them. They've supported us in the past. So if there's no further discussion on that, the motion would be in order.
Make a motion, we approve the letter of support as written under Board Order 9C1. This is Keith.
Okay. Director Dives, we have a motion. And need a second?
Director Miller will second that motion.
Okay, Director Miller, okay. He would be operating the meeting, and since he's going to be retiring, it would probably be in order in the Finance Committee. Spoke about this briefly, kind of one of the last minutes, but recommending Matt would be taking his place. And that would just be following what's been done in the past.
I think that's a very good idea, because Matt was the assistant manager. I think he has probably the most knowledge next to Rob, so I have no problem with that.
He knows it and keeps AVAC involved with it.
Yeah. I did have one question, Matt, with you going into that position. I know you're with the advisory board. for listening in on our meetings? Who's going to take over that spot?
I'll still listen in to the advisory committee. You know, AVEC cannot be a member of the advisory committee, can just be a participant to listen. So I'll still listen into the advisory committee and look out for AVEC's interest.
Great. Thank you.
And this would be something, you'd be very seldom running the meetings, but
Yeah,
just when Director Paris is not available.
exactly.
Okay, if there's nothing, further, a motion and a second would be in order. Okay, everybody.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, Director Van Dam,
I'll
Director
second
Donato.
Gary's motion.
Okay, Madam Secretary, we have a motion and a second.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes,
Can I ask one question?
motion carried.
Yeah, I should have asked it. Gary, you made a comment. What I didn't, are you, I mean, everybody can listen to anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's a Brown Act deal, but are you actually on the advisory committee?
No, I'm not.
You're not?
AVEC, because AVEC has a permanent seat on the Water Master Board, we're prohibited from being on the advisory committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should have asked before you.
Yeah.
You saved me on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. And we'll move on to the next item, item number 10, General Manager's Report. Matt, we hope you have good news.
All right, there is good news.
I think you do.
Yeah, a little bit of good news. I wish it was better, but I think the future holds even better news for us. So
I hear we're getting free salmon.
yeah. So this is Tom Barnes, our water resource manager, put together some nice slides for us. This shows the different regions of the Sierras, at the northern, central, and southern. Just shows the average snow water equivalency, the percent of the April 1st average, and the percent of normal for this date for snowpack for each of the regions. So good news across the state, you know, from the north to the south, well above the normal for this date, ranging from 144% to, in the southern Sierra, 219% of normal for this date. So on a statewide look, we're still at roughly 181% of the normal for this date. And we've already reached 156% of the April 1st snowpack. So all good news. And we've all seen the news and the snow accumulations up north. They keep digging out of that. So this is the Northern 8-Station Index. We've reviewed December and January before, we blew those averages out of the water. Just a reminder, the light blue bars are the actuals for this year. The dark blue dashes are long-term average. So for the month of February, this is through this morning, so it's pretty current data. A little over half for the average for a month of February. Last couple weeks have really helped out, but more storms on the way. So this is another look at that same data as it compares to other years, and the light blue shaded area is the long-term average between 1991 and 2020. We're currently at 42.3 inches, so about 118% of average for this date. So still doing pretty good, and the 10-day forecast looks good as well. State Water Project reservoirs, 2 reservoirs. We have Lake Orville in the red. It's up north there. It's currently 116% of historical average. It's about 72% full. There's roughly 2.6 million acre feet. And if you recall, that reservoir level is overflow is about 900 feet, so we're about 70 feet from overflow. San Luis Reservoir, the one in orange, we're 92% of historical average and 75% of capacity right now. Current storage volume is about 1.5 million acre feet, and the elevation is 502 feet. Another graph to show Lake Oroville. Again, we're above average for this time of year at about 2.5 million acre feet, and you can see where it's been in previous years. The red is the driest year on record, 1976, 77. And then the other red is 2014, 2015. The wettest year is one of those green bars at the top. So we're not quite there, but a little bit below. We're still doing pretty good for this time of year. And this is a look at San Luis Reservoir. A little bit below average for this time, but it's continuing to rise because the DWR is continuing to pump water into San Luis. So we expect to see that elevation rise in coming weeks and months.
We will hurry up and raise our allocation or give us discounts, because I see two things here, and it goes back to that, whoever that person was in charge that destroyed Oroville, when he should have been releasing that water, early. We're going to run into a situation again, and when they dump that water, San Luis is not going to be able to take all that water, and they're going to put it in the ocean.
Yeah.
So do we have a voice with the state water contractors? Because they need to push pressure. Are we playing pansy here? They should be telling the director to release the allocations higher so we can pick it up at a lower rate, to start groundwater recharging it instead of throwing it in the ocean, because now there's an emergency that the reservoir is going to tap out.
Yeah. Do you want?
Sure, I'll be happy to try and discuss this a little further. They do have a program called Article 21. It's Article 21 of the state water contract, so that's how they determine it. But what happens is once we hit up to that level where San Luis begins to spill, then there's an unlimited amount of use for all state water contractors. So you can take all the water that you can, and it doesn't count against your allocation. So in Avek's case and others, we'll be filling all of our water banks as quickly as we can. We do have some limitations because of the pumping to get over the Tehachapi's and all of that. But to answer your question, once you get to that point where San Luis begins to spill, in other words, it doesn't actually spill. In other words, the water would go out to the ocean instead of getting pumped into San Luis Reservoir. Then all of the contractors can then accept and move all the water that they can.
Well, yeah, we should be getting Article 21 pricing to put it in our groundwater recharge.
Yeah, the only pricing we have is just the variable cost. There's no other cost involved.
But we're one of 29 contractors. Who's making the voice on our behalf, and who's putting the pressure to start doing? I mean, here it is. It's March 1st tomorrow, and they got 400 inches of snow up in the Sierras.
Right.
And then as soon as we get a 1 or 2 week dry spell, there's gonna be floods.
And there's going to be problems with the
they're
discharge.
gonna call us up and say, "Oh, by the way, you can have Article 21."
Right. Yeah, well, that's basically what they do. They call us up and say Article 21 is going to be available in the next couple of days.
In that case, we need to have a plan. We need to have a plan that happens so we can take advantage of that water and put it.
Yeah.
We got Amagosa Creek here.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to open everything up.
Yeah, we do have a plan. Talking to John from operations, we're ready to go at the West Side Water Bank.
And
Upper Amagosa, all the water banks, east side. I mean, those little mount.
And if we get it, it might even help maybe Country Club, because they're lacking water too.
Supplies.
So they can put a hose in there. Water the golf course.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and we're monitoring it every day. We're checking to see when how quickly the reservoir is rising, so we can be ahead of the game.
Is Big Rock
As far
Creek,
as, absolutely,
sorry, is Big Rock Creek online yet, or are we
It's
still
not.
working on that?
No, we're still in the planning stage for that project.
That'd be a good
They're
one.
gonna have a problem anyway.
Yeah.
That water's gonna go over Palmdale Boulevard.
Yeah.
Snow up in the mountains
Yeah.
there.
Oh yeah. They're gonna have we're gonna have tons of natural runoff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
to what extent, Matt, are we recharging now?
Very little. Right now, we're only recharging at the east side water bank. So
Should we start now and try to be ahead of the game?
not quite, I've got a slide that kind of hits on that, but, at 35% allocation, that gives us roughly 50,000 acre feet. And, we want to supply as much as we can to our surface water treatment plant so we can back off on our water bank recovery. So total annual demand for our customers is probably close to 40,000. So that leaves us 10,000 acre feet. We want to make sure that we store a little bit in San Luis for next year if we need it, start off the year. So as the allocation goes up, which we anticipate it doing so, at that point, we'll start banking.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. We got a slide that showed the 10-year 10-day forecast. On the left is the temperature outlook. So good news. Things look to remain below average. So that's good from a snowpack. It's not all going to melt off. It's good that things are staying cool or below average up there. And then on the right is the precipitation outlook. More good news there. 10-day outlook is above average for primarily Northern California into Central. Southern California is pretty neutral. I kind of hit on this. Back in January, we received that good news from an increase in allocation from 5% to 30%. And just last week, I sent you all an email indicating that DWR increased it slightly from 30% to 35%. As I mentioned, 35% equates to just a little over 50,000 acre feet of state water project supply for AVEC. So we're looking at various plans on how to manage that supply. And as the allocation goes up, we are going to definitely be banking some here locally for future years. Some reasons behind the limited 5% increase, everybody was anticipating more than a 5% bump to 35. But, DWR is being very conservative, and, prior years where they over allocated, they had to take some allocation back if the water year turned dry and a lot of that snowpack ran off. So they are being conservative, but the snowpack is definitely going to increase our allocation in coming couple months. So.
Well, much better than last year. I mean, we're looking at 0 to 5%.
Yeah,
Great,
exactly.
great.
And then the last bullet there, kind of a note, more than 3 years since the state issued allocation of 35% or more. If you remember, last 2 years have been 5%. The year before that was a 25% allocation. So 35% is good news based on where we've been the last few years. And just a side note, it's been since April of 2016 when DWR has issued 100% allocation years.
Oh,
yeah, so it's been a long time. And then more close to home here, some operation and maintenance work going on. Inspection of the Mojave Tank Farm, tank number 3 and 4, as well as the Port Sale Clearwell 1 has been completed. We do have scheduled the other 2 tanks at the Mojave Tank Farm and Leona Valley Reservoir, as well as Acton tank to be completed over the next month and a half. And since the current table A allocation is at 35%, I mentioned we're going to try to use as much surface water as we can through our plants. So it's going to be the first time in several years that we've sent state water project water through the Rosamond plant. So that staff out there is shifting gears a little bit and getting ready to treat that water. And this will also give us an opportunity to test the SNP blending vault that was completed last year at the Rosamond plant, and that will be used to control the THM levels in the north feeder. And I think our last slide. Oh, here we go. High Desert Water Bank. So not much to update on High Desert Water Bank. Pretty wet out at the site. You can see here a drone shot of showing the snow at the turnout location. And here's a couple more pictures. You can see all the water in the trench. The snow on the left, that was Friday, I believe, that photo was taken. So a lot of that has disrupted the construction activity going on. So we don't anticipate much work going on this week. They have to wait for things to dry out there. And then Director Paris is at the Aqua Conference in Washington, D.C. this week. And then coming up towards the end of March, we have the Water Master meeting on the 22nd. So that's all I have to report, unless you have any questions.
Is there any questions from the board or comments? Good report, Matt. Thank you.
I had one question. If on that water that we're buying from the state on our allocation, what happens if we do get that table or that 21 water for free, and then we're filled up with all this bought water?
So the water we're planning to purchase over the next few months from DWR will be used directly through our water treatment plant facilities, Quartz Hill here, delivered to Palmdale, and then also at Rosamond. So the Article 21, if it becomes available, would be used primarily at the water banks. So we aren't planning to deliver anything right now to the banks.
Okay.
So hopefully that helps explain it.
Okay. If there's nothing further, we'll move on with the agenda. Item number 11, directors' reports. If any of the directors have any comments or reports? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 12, attorney's report.
And Mr. President, I don't have a report except to say I'm really looking forward to a live meeting starting next month, and I will be there to see all of you. It's been literally years since.
Yeah, we're great. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Request for future agenda items. Okay, we'll move on to item number 14. Matt, is there a reason to go into closed session?
There is not tonight. No reason.
Dang, you're making it easy. Okay. Thank you. Then it brings us down to item 16 to adjourn the regular meeting of March 14th at 5:30 p.m. And so we'd have a motion in order. To adjourn to March 14th.
This is Director Soestable, so moved.
Okay. Director Soestable, we have a motion. We need a second. But he has a lot of time.
Van Dam second.
Okay, Gary Van Dam a second. Give me a motion and a second. Madam Secretary?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Shelley Sourceable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.